This has been our goal from Israel's first day, and we will continue to work with the President and his team to make that dream of peace come true. I also want to make clear there will be no change whatsoever to the status quo at the holy sites. Israel will always ensure freedom of worship for Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike. President Trump, thank you for today's historic decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. The Jewish people and the Jewish state will be forever grateful.
Meanwhile, there have been violent clashes in some cities, including Bethlehem, West Bank, and others in response to U.S. President Donald Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Also, reactions have continued worldwide to the announcement.
As expected, Palestinians and their supporters worldwide have reacted angrily to the U.S. president's decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
He is appeasing religious extremism here and abroad, and he has dealt a death blow to the prospects of peace in the region.
There are concerns that Trump's move undermines a two-state solution for the Middle East. The UN Secretary General said the status of Jerusalem should be resolved through direct negotiations between the Israelis and the Palestinians, and reiterated that any unilateral move could undermine the peace efforts.
I will do everything in my power to support the Israeli and Palestinian leaders to return to meaningful negotiations.
The chief Palestinian negotiator said Trump's move disqualifies the United States as a player in the Middle East peace process.
He is in total violation of international law, human rights, and he's turning the conflict between Palestinians and Israelis from a political one into a religious one.
Some analysts agree that Trump's decision signals an end of the American-led peace process.
The Palestinian public wouldn't allow it. So any Palestinian leader who tries to, I think, would be thoroughly discredited in the eyes of his people. I do think that it is the end of an American-led peace process.
The head of an Orthodox Jewish advocacy group in Washington told VOA that recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital will help revive the peace process.
The announcement by President Trump today and the start of the process towards relocating the embassy sends a very important message to the Palestinians and the others, which is if you stay on the sidelines, things are not going to stay status quo. You're actually going to lose ground. So that it's really in your interest to find ways to, first of all, stop things that are undermining of a potential peace process.
A 1995 U.S. law envisions a relocation of the U.S. Embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. But so far, all presidents before Trump have signed waivers to postpone the move amid security concerns.
With that, we conclude the news roundup for this week. Thank you for being part of the program. I am today Alabi. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye. Part of our continued efforts to reach the African and other ethnic communities in the United Kingdom with greater impacts and create a platform to hear your silent and unheard views in this hugely green community in the United Kingdom, our channel, Ben TV, presents to you another live current affairs television program. Our focus on the program is to review and discuss issues around the diaspora community in the UK. The program offers you that unrestricted voice on issues affecting you in the UK. Join us live every Monday at 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Another business segment of Dialogue in Diaspora, 2 to 3 p.m. every Monday. But guess what? You can be part of the program. Just send us an email at bentelevisionuk@gmail.com. Dialogue in Diaspora, the voice, your opinion on our TV. Thank you for joining us on the program today. Good morning. My name is Tude Alabi. It's a pleasure to have you join us on the show. I know the weather is kind of very threatening with shower, cold, and wintry snow in some part of England. I know it did snow yesterday, and some parts of England also currently having snow around them, and transportation has been very disruptive. There has been disruption to the rail system. There has been kind of disruption to most transport links, especially across London. So in case if you're struggling either to get out, to get on the road, just be careful. If you do have an appointment, you gotta leave them very early. Because of the very nature of the weather we are having here, the transport system has been very, very disruptive, and the weather forecast has been that Britain is heading towards a very cold Christmas, probably a white Christmas, which has not been for a very, very long time. Good morning. It's a pleasure to have you join us on the program today. As we had in our news, the last two stories we brought you in the news that has got to do with the crisis that is currently going on in the Middle East regarding the recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And why is it a problem? Why is Jerusalem being the capital of Israel a problem? Why are we having protest and demonstration? Why is Trump's decision to move the embassy, the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, a problem? Are we saying the U.S. as a sovereign nation, as an independent country, does not have the right, the decision, the ability to choose where its embassy will be? Why do we have issues with what Trump said? Why do we have issues with Jerusalem and Israel and the Palestinian? Why can't we have what is said to be a two-state solution? And these are the issues we'll be taking a look at on the show today. I'm pleased to be joined on the show today by Marwan Al-Sheikh. Marwan Al-Sheikh is a Palestinian activist. Marwan, thank you for joining us on the program today. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
And thank you for taking your time to join us on the show. And I'm also joined by Dr. Mike Hui. Dr. Mike Hui, he is a president of the Global Peace Worldwide. Dr. Mike, thank you for joining us on the program today. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
As we head in our news, let me start with you, Marwan. From the moment Trump recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, the reactions from the Middle East, from the Muslim world, have been very, very negative. There have been protests. The question I want to put to you, you as a Palestinian, what is the problem? Why is there a problem?
Well, it's very, very simple. The problem is basically 100 years from ago, the Balfour Declaration has of promising the land of Palestine to Israel by England. Mr. Balfour has promised the Israeli to have Palestine as their homeland, as a national land for Israel, a land which he doesn't, which doesn't belong to him. So he promised a land which doesn't belong to him to a people who does not deserve it, in my view. 100 years later, the American, by its almighty power, coming to give the capital of what's supposed to be Palestine state to Israel. Of course, that will create an outrage in the Palestinian between the Palestinian people and the Muslim world as a whole, because of the holy sites in Jerusalem itself as well. So the Palestinian and the Arab the Muslim world, who have given a chance to the peace for for the last 30 years, basically since 1994.
Has there ever been a peace between the Palestinians and Israelis? Has there ever been a peace at all?
Well, truly, Palestinian people have been living in this land, you know, for probably 14,000 years before Christ. So in the last 1947.
You mean including Jerusalem?
Of course, of course. You know, Palestine, as we know it, is part of the larger, the greater Syria. Right? And the greater Syria is part of the Arabia land in the Middle East, which is starting from Saudi Arabia up until north of Lebanon, until north of Palestine. So Palestine is in the middle of the land of the Arabia, which is starting from the Atlantic Sea in Morocco until the Persian Sea, which is the Arabian Sea between the, you know, the Iranian and the Saudis. So we have seen this as, you know, as something outrageous that Israel, who have occupied Palestine since 1947, taking the greatest part of Palestine, 55% of Palestine in 1947 have been given to Israel by the United Nations, and the Palestinians were given 45%. The Israeli haven't kept that. They have starting another war and taken another part of Palestine, another portion of Palestine, until it's become, instead of 55, for a population who were at the time less than 20% or so of the people who lives there. You know, creating it up to 78% of Palestine after 1948. In 1967, they started another war, and they have occupied the whole of Palestine.
So
after that, the people have been talking, of course, of the outrage of how they did it. Of course, we are not talking about how they did it, the massacres which they created against the Palestinian, the ethnic cleansing against the Palestinian, kicking the Palestinian out, destroying their villages, destroying their houses, leaving them to go and become refugees, and they are up till now refugees. 700,000 people have been forced out of their country, becoming refugees, you know, and I'm one of them. You see, and on top of that, the Palestinians have been reasonably realistic. And they said, okay, well, look, after a while, they said, okay, well, look, 1970s, we will start a process of peace with Israel and negotiate with them to keep the peace which have been occupied in 1967, which is include East Jerusalem. So East Jerusalem, 1967 was part of the of the area which has not been occupied by Israel. So the world basically have suggested, okay, well, look, in order not to have a bigger war and war, to create peace between the two states and implement like the solution of two-state solution, which will give Israel 78% of the total land of Palestine. And
so the way you say, so you're saying that even where Israel presently occupied does not belong to Israel, it is the Palestine land.
Well, yes, it is. It is Palestine land. Originally, Originally, I mean, of course, it's Palestinian land because the Arab have been occupying this land or been in this land 14,000 years before Christ.
Okay, let me put you on hold. Let me come to Dr. Mike. I mean, for our viewers watching the program, they will be like, what they have been reading, either in the Bible, in the Quran, doesn't seem to tally with the fact that the Palestinian, Jerusalem doesn't belong to the Israelis. Tell us the background to some of this issue. What is actually the problem with Jerusalem being the capital of Israel?
Well, I think I have to lay a premise for
Yes.
the discussion. So I am the president of the Global Peace Movement, which includes both Palestine and Israel and all parts of the world, really. Now, we're talking about peace. Peace on its own has no alternative in anywhere, in any part of the world. I have for many years studied the politics behind the Palestinians and the Israelis. I'll tell you categorically that they are brothers. However you look at it, they are brothers. It's like two family members disputing the land of their parents.
Let me put a hold there. You're going to call it. Is that true? Are you brothers?
No, we are not brothers.
You're not brothers.
We are a people who has been occupied by a bigger force, supported by the capitalists, supported by the capitalists of the world.
So you're not of the same. So the Palestinians and the Israelis are not of the same family. You're not brothers.
No, we are not brothers. Sorry.
You're not brothers.
No.
So listen, they're not brothers.
Historically,
why do people feel that the Israelis and the Palestinians? Here is the Palestinians say, look, we are not brothers. We don't know them. They only occupied us. They occupied our land, they occupied our territory because of their bigger force in power.
It's a distortion on fact. Like I will
He
say,
just said, who
yeah,
is distorting fact?
I disprove him.
Who is distorting fact? The people historically, Bible or human?
The Bible makes it very clear that they are brothers.
But he said they are not brothers.
From the days of Moses, from the days of Adam.
Dr. Mike, the Palestinian man said he is not a brother with any Israeli.
It's not serious. I will tell you that it's not serious because I know the history. They are related. They are brothers. In any way he's going to look at it.
Let me put your hood. Are you by any means related?
So, look,
historically or by any means?
Look, to me, I am a Palestinian. I have been occupied by forces supported by a bigger capitalism.
Are the Palestinian
countries who want to, by force, take our land for a political reason?
We know that. Yes. The Palestinian land, according to you, has been occupied by some forces, greater and mightier. But what I said, are you by any means, the Palestinian and the Israelis, related at all? Historically related. Are you family members?
No, we are not family members.
You're not. Close.
Okay,
they are not family members.
Okay, no, they are not family members. And I'm saying, because I am the opposite side of it, I am not agreeing with him. I am saying they are brothers. Whether he likes to agree or not doesn't change my position.
How could you want to change the... you can't come into my family to say, X is my brother. When I say, no, X is not my brother, and you just a third party.
Mind you, this is not just a one family system. We are talking of a holistic situation. We are not talking of one family lineage.
Okay.
If it's taken on a one family lineage, yes, they are not brothers. But we're looking at it from the very ancient of time. The word Jerusalem, the meaning is simply city of peace. That is just the meaning. And the word is from a Hebrew word. It's not even a Palestinian word. So you should understand that very well. Clearly, Jerusalem is city of peace. That was the city of David. If you want to look at it from the Bible perspective. But this is not a spiritual program. I don't intend to go into
we can go historically
to what it means. Historically, you're talking about archaeological situation.
Yeah.
You find that within those areas, we're all related into one body. I tell you, for example, when I went to Iraq, I found out that the body of Jonah, who was sent by God to go to Nineveh, who refused to go, was buried in Nineveh, which is in Iraq. And that is the place we call Basra today. The body is still there. Nobody can dispute that. So there are many things that are in one part of the Middle East that are in the other side before the geographical aspect of politics came into it. I'm telling you, Nebuchadnezzar's palace is in Iraq. It's not in Israel. So this area were kind of a brotherhood inheritance at a particular time. We cannot remove the historical aspect of the ecology from this very aspect of a dispute. Now, if they say they are not brothers, there's no problem about that. Because we're talking of a holistic situation, not just a one strict system of a family relationship. The problem we have there is, if you occupy the eastern part of Jerusalem, it is not as if you are occupying the entire Jerusalem. It's like you are occupying eastern part of London. There is southeast London, there is west London, there is north London. If you combine these other three aspects to just East London, you know that you're only occupying a quarter aspect of it. And that doesn't give you the total claim of the whole London. That's the argument here that people are not trying to see. Popular decision on political righteousness, or trying to be correct, it's not an issue that you should put as a point of demarcation. The dichotomy must be explained properly.
Maho, before you react, let me quickly take this call. I got this call. Let's take the calls from our caller. Yinka, good morning, Yinka.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us on the program. Quickly make your point so that I can get back to my guests.
Thank you. I will dispute with Dr. Louis. Like the gentleman said, they are not brothers. And to be honest with you, this is the issue that has been on ground. And it is time for us to celebrate on it. And we don't need to have a winner. We just need to put peace and resolute into this matter. The decision taken by Trump is...
How did you... Okay.
If we were talking about the history, about where the palace of Nebuchadnezzar was, I want to ask him a question. The word Jerusalem, and the other man will support me. What is the name given in Arabic? The Jerusalem has
it is not Arabic, it is Hebrew.
Al-Karib. Hello?
Well, Al-Quds.
Hello, today, are you with
me? Go on, yes, go on.
Are you with me? If the man said they are not brothers, sincerely, I will be honest with you, they are not brothers. This Jerusalem is a place of sacred area that everybody needs to share from for the history to be fulfilled. The Islamic, the Christians, the Jews alike, they are both have the right to the city of Jerusalem. Nobody is going to separate it. The word Trump used of recognition of Jerusalem or bringing his embassy from where it was to Jerusalem is not the right time.
No, Yinka, can I ask you one question? Yinka, 1 minute.
I will ask Dr. Uyi, the so-called the Garden of Eden. Where do you think the Garden of Eden is, Dr. Uyi? If you are telling the man that knows everywhere in his own domain, saying that they are not brothers, he thinks he's saying the right thing. But all what we are doing now is that people of this generation wanted to cause conflict and chaos into the city, especially the American president of today. I see no reason why he's taking that recognition of Jerusalem.
So are you, Yinka, 1 minute? Yinka, 1 minute. Yinka, are you there? Yinka, are you saying America as a sovereign nation cannot decide and determine where it will put its embassy?
Oh,
does it not have the right? Don't you have the right to determine where you...
I understand the question you're asking now.
Yeah.
And that is the area that I want Dr. Uyi to answer. And the gentleman beside you. Don't ever go to the history.
Okay, thank you, Yinka.
They are going to make mistakes and error.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
American or any country, including my country, Nigeria, has the right to put its embassy anywhere they wanted to put it, even in Israel or in Jerusalem. But the point remains, there is an undertone that Trump is trying to play a gimmick here of recognizing Jerusalem to belong to Israel.
All right, thank you so much, Yinka. Thank you for contributing. Thank you for adding to the show. I'm sorry I called the show before you wanted to react to Dr. Uyi when he was saying. Continue.
Yes, what I want to say is basically if we were
because he was saying that where you're claiming is just a portion of Jerusalem, which is just East Jerusalem.
Yeah.
So if you're laying claim to East Jerusalem, what gives the Palestinian the right to say,
it's not a me
the whole
claiming.
of Jerusalem belongs to them? It's just eastern part of Jerusalem that you are laying claim to because of the holy side there.
Yeah. But what you have to take into account that the Israeli side is basically claiming that they want to have a whole Jerusalem for themselves as their capital. And the aggression of the strong, which is the Israeli side, is the one who is actually refusing to accept the two-state solution completely.
Is it true that Jerusalem is a Hebrew word?
Sorry?
Jerusalem is a Hebrew word.
No, it's not a Hebrew word. Jerusalem is an English word interpretation of Al-Quds.
Al-Quds.
Yeah. It's not Hebrew word.
But is it a Palestinian word?
Yeah, it's not. It's English. It's
No.
the name of English.
No.
Yeah, it's English. It's not. It's not Hebrew word. The Arabic word. Well, Jerusalem has different names.
Okay.
All the in history.
Okay.
You know, it was called Elia. It was called Al-Quds, and still called Al-Quds by the Arabs. The English people called it Jerusalem, and the Jewish called it Orshalim. They don't call it Jerusalem. Okay. They call it Orshalim.
History. You mentioned history. Historically. Yes. Over 3,000 years ago, Jerusalem is known to be...
3,000 is 14,000 before Christ.
Jerusalem is, even 14,000 before Christ. Yeah. Jerusalem is known to be the city of the kings of Israel.
No,
like Solomon, like David.
No, it's not like that. I'm not going to go to that deep. All what I want to say is basically where we are starting is from the point of, let's say, 1947.
Let me put on hold. Can we just go back to the news where the Prime Minister of Israel was talking? If once the studio is able to get that, we'll take that clip again. Let us listen to what the Prime Minister of Israel did say when he was appreciating Jerusalem and appreciating President Donald Trump. We will listen a bit to the Prime Minister of Jerusalem talking just in a few minutes as soon as we're able to get that done. But let's come back to you. So, in history, before Christ,
yes,
kings have always sat in Jerusalem. The kings of Israel. Jerusalem has always
before
been...
Christ.
Yeah, before Christ.
No, before
Isn't
Christ.
That?
No, before Christ. As I told you, Palestine as a whole was occupied by the Yabusiyin, the Phoenician, the Arabs, basically. These are tribes of Arab who occupied that area as part of the whole Arab world. It's not possible to have that part separate from the whole Arab world. You know, and the whole Arab world is well known. It's from Morocco in the Atlantic Sea until, as I told you, the Persian Sea in Saudi Arabia, near Saudi Arabia, between Saudi Arabia and the Persian, the Iranian, which we call them the Iranian now, so this whole area, including Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, Jordan, Palestine, Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, Sudan, and Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, they are all Arab countries. They are all Arab-oriented countries by majority.
So it seems Israel is the only different nation within that Arab territory. Because if you look at all those nations you have spoken about, they are all Muslim Arab world.
Not just Muslim.
The only different country there is Israel. How did Israel come to sit in the middle of the Arab world? Would you like to give me an answer to that? I go to Dr. Michael.
As I told you, in 1917, the British have decided to give, you see, British in 1917 have been given after the disposal of 1916 of the Ottoman Empire. You know, when the British and the French decide to attack the Ottoman Empire and divide it between them under Sykes-Picot, yeah? Under Sykes-Picot in 1916. So the British have took Palestine as part of the deal between them and between the French. So the French decide to take, for example, they decide to take Morocco, they take Algeria, they take Lebanon, they take Syria, and the British have take, yeah, the British have take Palestine, Jordan, Iraq, all the Gulf states, including Kuwait and Bahrain and Emirat, United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. They took Egypt as well, Sudan, right? All of these have been divided between, you know, two countries, two big, colonialism. So these two big empires, they see a weaker empire. They said, okay, well, let's not fight between each other who's going to take it. This is going to fall. Let's go and divide it between us so we don't...
so at that time, where was Israel?
There was no Israel. There was no Israel at that time.
Okay, let me put on hold.
There was no Israel.
Dr. Mike,
It was even the Jewish population in Palestine at that time, they were about 3% to 4% of the population.
Okay, historically, how did Israel, the Jewish people, come to sit in the middle of this vast Arabian Muslim war?
There's a miscalculation there. You see, historically, you find out that Israel has been Jerusalem all along. If you look at it.
Even beyond Jerusalem. Look at the analysis
in 1917, all the historians say, including the Jewish people, they say they were minority. They were about 3% of the Palestinians. Now, in 1917, after the British have decided that they want, for their own reason, to give that part to the Jews, they decide to bring the Jews. They put the general who is in control of Palestine as part of the British. They put it from the Jewish British, Herbert Samuel. Herbert Samuel.
You can't explain further because you will confuse the situation.
No, not confusing the situation.
The situation
is clear.
Further than this, not to confuse the situation to the audience. Now, if you say what you are saying, are you now telling the audience that Israel were in Kazakhstan or were in Russia? They were now imported to that land to stay in the middle of that land? No.
Yes,
I'm telling you clearly.
It was never there.
No.
It was never there.
I'm telling you clearly, even the Babylonian kingdom, even the Nebuchadnezzar went in and then captured the Jews. They were brought from somewhere. And where was that? That is the exact land we are talking about today. Jerusalem. The entire land of Israel, where they occupied today before they were scattered. So Israel was not just a tribe that were nowhere in the world and they just came and then be imposed on the Middle East. Not at all. If not, have you seen Israel, the Jews, claiming Nebuchadnezzar's palace in Babylon today, which is in Iraq? Have you seen them going to Samaria? Samaria is in Iraq.
Let me add something to your information.
Have you seen them claiming the body of Jonah in Basra, in Mosul today? Because it's their historical background. No, I have not left my premises.
Okay.
The issue here is very clear.
No.
That land has always been occupied by the kings and prince of Israel, the Jews. That is why that land is called the City of Peace. Jerusalem. The City of Peace. The word Jerusalem is on an Islamic word.
So are you saying?
An Arabic word. It's just a Jewish language.
All right, gentlemen.
Are you saying basically that this whole Arab area, was Jewish area? Was Israeli?
Not the whole of the area. I am telling you.
Where is it? Where they come from?
Okay, I'll show you. Okay, I'll show you. 1 minute. Yeah, 1 minute, Dr. Mike. Let's quickly go to Benjamin Netanyahu. Let us listen to his own part of the history of Jerusalem, and I will come back to my.
By Netanyahu, we want to listen to Netanyahu to tell us.
Let's listen to his own history. Let us listen to his own history.
He's a politician. He's not a historian. He's a politician. He doesn't know the history.
All right, okay. Whether he's a politician, he's not a historian. He is a prime minister of Israel.
Yes.
And for him to have become the prime minister, he must have known the archaeological foundation of his country. Let's just listen to him. I know that Emmanuel is on the line. Emmanuel, I know you're on the line. I can see you, Emmanuel. Can you just give me 5 minutes and I'll join you? Don't go, Emmanuel. Let's listen to Benjamin Netanyahu. Let's quickly take that clip. We'll be back.
Capital of Israel for nearly 70 years. It was here that our temple stood, our kings ruled, our prophets preached. Jerusalem has been the focus of our hopes, our dreams, our prayers for 3 millennia. From every corner of the earth, our people yearn to return to Jerusalem, to touch its golden stones, to walk its hallowed streets. So it's rare to be able to speak of new and genuine milestones in the glorious history of this city. Yet today's pronouncement by President Trump is such an occasion. We're profoundly grateful for the president for his courageous and just decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and to prepare for the opening of the U.S. Embassy here. This decision reflects the president's commitment to an ancient but enduring truth, to fulfilling his promises, and to advancing peace. The president's decision is an important step towards peace, for there is no peace that doesn't include Jerusalem as the capital of the state of Israel. I call on all countries that seek peace to join the United States in recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital and to move their embassies here. I share President Trump's commitment to advancing peace between Israel and all of our neighbors, including the Palestinians. This has been our goal from Israel's first day, and we will continue to work with the president and his team to make that dream of peace come true. I also want to make clear there will be no change whatsoever to the status quo at the holy sites. Israel will always ensure freedom of worship for Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike. President Trump, thank you for today's historic decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital, the Jewish people, and the Jewish state.
That was Benjamin Netanyahu. He's saying that it is an ancient historical fact that Jerusalem belongs to Israel, and there will be no peace that will exclude Jerusalem being the capital of Israel. Let me put you on hold there. I'm going to come to you, Al-Sheikh. Emmanuel, are you still on the line? Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you for waiting. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Yeah, good morning, Dr. Tunde.
Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Yeah. You see, my contribution to this issue is this. You see, a lot of people, they will look at it in a different angle, but to my own mind, I think it's implementations of policy and human rights. President Trump, I know a lot of people, or what I would call people from different quarters will be saying, oh, the man did not implement the right thing, it's causing trouble. This is not a question of trouble. This is a question to strengthen the institution in Jerusalem. That is what we have to look at. People know the problems there. Trump did the right thing, and by voicing his mind, he is not the person that even implemented or opinioned the law from the initial stage. But what he did is to implement what has been on the book. I don't know why people are very angry about it. I don't know why people are fighting, burning American flags. That is rubbish. We have to face reality. Some of these guys, they don't want to follow democratic principles.
What democratic principle? Democratic principle is to take other people's land.
On their own side. What Trump did is trying to threaten the institutions of democracy in the Middle East.
All right, Manuel, because of our time. Thank you, Manuel. I've actually run out of time. Al-Sheikh, you were reacting to Emmanuel when he was talking that. What democratic principle? Are you saying it is not a democratic principle?
Of course it's not democratic principle. Where is the democratic principle? The democratic principle is if you come to the people, for example, the Nigerian people, tell the Nigerian people, do you want this guy as a president or this guy as a president? That the democratic is these people will choose who is the president of this or that. For example, to come and tell me I am a Palestinian and I want to come and decide to the British how and where to choose their president is not democratic. It's nothing to do with it. Yeah. Wait, one minute. Here is issue between the Arab world, the Muslim world, and the Israeli state, which has been imposed into in the Middle East.
So you say Israeli state is imposed. So
of course it's imposed.
So the Jewish people, where have they always been? If you say
they haven't been.
Where did they come from?
No, they haven't been. Well, what has been is this. What has been is this. If you want to talk historically, we know the story. The story is basically the Jews have been brought by Moses into Palestine from Egypt when they have been.
Where were they before they went to Egypt?
Sorry?
Where were they before they went to Egypt? They were somewhere before they went to Egypt.
Well, they were
scattered abroad.
They scattered all over the place. I don't know where they
Let me answer.
Listen. According to the story, according to the Quran story, if you want the Quran story, the Quran story, it says that Jacob and Jacob is the father of the 11 sons.
Okay.
Yeah. Right? And the 11 sons have been in Palestine with other Palestinians between the sons of Abraham. That's what he called you are brother. Why he called they are brothers, right? So
that's why he said you are brothers.
Yeah, that's what he say brothers. But what happened is these 11 brothers, they have one very attractive and clever boy out of them who Jacob have dreamed that basically the 11 will be praying for this guy.
That's Joseph.
That's Joseph. And then the brothers get jealous of him and took him and dump him into a well.
So that's something
into a
from
well.
nowhere before they took him.
Yeah. So that the area. Now some tribes came and found him and took him to Egypt. In Egypt, he become like the president of Egypt accidentally.
Yeah.
Right. Accidentally, he become the
prime minister.
Almost, right? Almost. But he wasn't prime minister. In the beginning, he was working as a slave to
Europe or
whatever her name. No, let me tell you.
Wait. What you said
he became prime minister. Okay, he became prime minister there, and he called for his family to come. So all his family has gone. All to his Egypt. Family, all, yeah.
From Canaan?
From Canaan area.
Okay,
Canaan is Arab. Canaan is Arab.
So Canaan is the Palestinian land. Canaan is the Palestinian land.
Absolutely.
Listen, the fact I don't want Marwa to distort here is very clear. First of all, we are looking at the immediate situation that created political tension within the Middle East now over Trump's decision. I want to make it clear to everybody that Trump has taken no wrong decisions. First, Trump has said and has spoken for America, number one. Number two, America is a sovereign state. Number three, Trump has not spoken for the entire United Nations. Trump has not declared all his friends in the UN to support what he has said.
So since
he
he
has
become American?
No. He has only spoken about the United States of America. He has not spoken of all his allies must recognize Jerusalem as a territory of Israel.
No, he has no right to do that. Absolutely no right.
He has the right.
No right.
He's a sovereign state and has the right to take decision concerning his
no right. He was supposed to be. He was supposed to be the American. Excuse me. The American was supposed to be a broker, a deal broker, a peace broker between the two sides. That's what we know from the 80s.
Yeah, sure.
Wait a second.
Sure.
From the 80s, they supposed to be impartial between the two parties. If you are in dispute, he is in dispute with you. I am in the middle. As a partial, you tell me, okay, solve it. Okay.
Yep.
Now, if you take a side, then you are not partial anymore. Then you cannot be. You cannot be a partial.
So remove Israel from the resolution. Remove US from the resolution. What does it take away from Israel, or what does it take away from the Palestinians, or what does it take away from US? US is supposed to be impartial. Now Trump has said, I am exercising my sovereign right and power. I am declaring my capital. My embassy in Jerusalem.
But Jerusalem is a disputed land between the two states. There is a two-state here which we have a big dispute. Now, if you come and say, "Oh, this part I want to put you can't do that.
Talk about democracy.
You can't do
democracy is a game of number. You are occupying 20% of 100%. How is that democracy?
Sorry.
You occupy only part of Jerusalem, the eastern part of Jerusalem. I gave an example of East London, West London, the South East.
It's not occupying.
You are taking over one side. And now you are saying that the man who wants to recognize for peace should just take everybody 80 against 20.
No.
That's what you're saying.
You're getting it wrong.
I'm not getting it wrong.
Doctor,
you are getting it wrong by saying Trump should not recognize Israel and Jerusalem.
Doctor, I'm sorry. That's not the way it is.
That is what you are saying.
That's not the way it is. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is basically there is a problem. We recognize that there is a problem, and this problem has started in 1947. In 1947, the whole United Nations, the whole world have decided that okay, we will divide the land between these two people. Even though at that particular time, the population of Palestine was basically 60% against 40%, right? Palestinian to Jewish. The United Nations decide because of their sympathy with the Jews, because of what happened in Germany, that basically gives them 55% of Palestine.
Of the land of the Palestinians.
Of Palestine. In the back of the Palestinian. Even though they are the majority.
So your claim now is that they never had any land at all. They just came from nowhere and they were sympathetic.
The Israelis, the Jewish people.
They were sympathetic enough to them and they don't put them there. The Jewish never existed anywhere around there.
Excuse me.
Why is it? Why are the Jews not claiming any land?
Okay, I'll go call. Let me tell this call. Let me tell this call. I'll go call.
Wait.
Maran, let me tell this call.
Let me remove my
Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike, let me tell this call. Frank, thank you for waiting on the line for almost 20 minutes. Thank you, Frank. Good morning, Frank.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for waiting.
I'm happy that you play back the message from Netanyahu. If you listen to that message properly, it says something. It says, one, Israelis are coming back to Jerusalem. And he thanked Donald Trump for taking that decision. One, you previously asked, was there anything wrong for an American to move his embassy and place it in Jerusalem? I said it was an undertoning. Let me just say this. Where was American embassy before? And the rest nation's embassy before? Why would Trump at this hour say that he's now moving that embassy from the city of where it was down to Jerusalem? He's now giving a kind of a support to Israel in order to make Jerusalem as their city capital. But let me be honest with you. I'm throwing this question to Dr. Hui. If Dr. Hui is talking politically, you could see what is going on within the Israel and the Gaza Strip. That what Trump is doing is just taking a side. And nowadays, Christians are now taking it to be above whatever we are talking about. Let us look at the people right there and give them sympathy about what Trump is now taking them to become a fool. Let me be honest with you. When we are looking at the Quran and the Bible, these people are this historical Bible have already explained everything in total. We don't need any political agenda in order to put things in the right perspective. I want to ask you this question again. Why do we take Trump to move his embassy from where it is to Jerusalem? What is happening to the embassy where it was before? And what is the past president of America been thinking, not recognizing Jerusalem to be where they're supposed to put their embassy? This is a serious 1 million question that every one of us, including both Muslim and Christian, should be having.
All right, okay, Frank. Because of my time, thank you so much, Frank.
You need to know about your city.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank, for your contribution. Oshay, because of my time, your last take on the program. Yeah. What is the way forward? How do we resolve this issue? What is the way forward? What is the solution now?
Well, the solution now for the Palestinian and Israeli problem, you mean?
Yes.
Or the decision of the American president.
All of it.
What is it?
All of it.
Well, for the American president, I'm sorry, but he has to come back.
He will change his mind.
The whole world.
Are you saying the solution now?
Council 14-1. The Security Council have voted 14 to 1.
Doesn't matter.
No,
are you saying?
Are you saying?
One minute ago you're democratic. Now we are not democratic. We say Security Council 14 to 1.
Are you saying now that America should move its embassy back to Tel Aviv as a way forward?
Well, I think that will help. That will help calm down the situation.
Even when American embassy was in Tel Aviv, even while Jerusalem was never recognized as capital, there was never peace.
Of course.
So what will change? What will change now?
It's never going to be peace. How peace is going to be is by giving justice to people.
Justice.
Yes.
Your last
justice. That's what we need. We need justice. And the only way to give justice to the people, to the Palestinian people who has lost their land by these greater colonialization powers is by giving them back their country and their sovereignty.
I
to a state.
That the peace will only come when Tel Aviv is retained as a capital recognized by Trump, because there has always been problem even when Trump has not spoken. There have been problem when Trump was not even elected as the president of the United States of America.
So what will now change? Will there be more problems now?
And again, whoever is holding that is like not looking at the whole matter holistically, because the man has not spoken on behalf of his ally. He has not spoken on behalf of the United Nations.
But the point he's making is, America is sitting as a judge.
Yes.
And the disputed land is Jerusalem.
Yes.
Now, for the judge to say, now in my capacity, not as a judge, but as an individual in a nation, I'm going to decide which will compromise. It's going to
be something like compromise in every court of justice of any jurisdiction.
Well, if you take side, you can't be a judge.
America will not sit on the fence and say, I don't want to offend Palestine, I don't want to offend Israel. I don't have a decision.
Unfortunately, we haven't got the time to continue with the discussion. I'm going to bring you two back. I'm going
to convince Mawad that what he says is
first and foremost, he has said Israelis and the Palestinians are never brothers. They are never.
They are brothers.
I can imagine, I can understand that when two families are bitterly angered, sometimes they disown themselves, probably.
You talk about Jacob. Where do you get Jacob from if you are not going to historical level?
I have run out of time. I'm going to bring you two back sometimes. We'll look at what is going on. We'll look at the development. We'll look at where things is going. I'm going to bring you back. But before I go, I've got Emmanuel on the line. Emmanuel, let me quickly take you. Good morning, Emmanuel. Thank you for joining us. 1 minute, quickly make your point.
Just a little contribution to the point.
Yes. Go on.
Hello?
Yes, go on.
Yeah. You see, the point is that Trump has spoken for the Americans. Trump spoke for the people of Americans. And Trump spoke for democracy of America. People should understand the institution in which Mr. Trump is speaking. It's quite unfortunate that the last caller used the language that is very, very uncivil, useless. From that guy needs to be corrected on that point. Mr. Uyi is making the greatest point, the point of institution, the point of not disputing about the land, the point of having rights of people from east to west Jerusalem. And that is what we'll be thinking. Israel cannot live on the sky, okay? People should get that point very clear.
All right, Emmanuel, thank you. Because of my time, I'm sorry, I need to let you go. Emmanuel, Emmanuel, I'm sorry, thank you so much, Emmanuel, because of my time.
Taking note of that.
Thanks a lot. All right, Maron El-Sheikh, thank you for coming on the show. Dr. Michael, Global Peace Movement, thank you for coming on the show. We will be looking at where this is going in the coming days.
Call yourself war movement rather than peace.
I will deal with my
colonization movement, not a peace movement.
Okay, all right. BenTV will be monitoring the situation as it develops around the world. That will be following. We'll be giving you more updates as they happen. And that's how. Well, let's look at the impact of these on Europe. And I'll quickly bring in my guest for the next 5 minutes, Paolo Aseriali, to tell us how will this decision by Trump affect Europe. Paolo is our Italian correspondent. He's in London and is in the house. 5 minutes, I'll take Paolo now, and then we'll quickly take a look at cultural identity in diaspora. I've got Kola Adedoko in the studio. A few minutes, we'll look at how the diaspora movement is affecting our cultural identity. We've got a short break. I bring Paolo, and we continue the program. Don't go away.
Behave very well, live up to good standards that will enhance the image of Nigeria all over the world. And above all, whatever you can do to promote commerce and progress in Nigeria, even when you're in foreign countries, try and do them. Thank you very much.
All right, welcome back. Thank you for still watching the program. I've got Paolo Seriali, a special correspondent from Italy, in London now. Paolo, thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you.
How is this decision going on around Europe? I know that Macron, the French president, has actually condemned the decision, says it's going to cause crisis. The same thing, Angela Merkel. How is this going to affect Europe?
It will affect very badly because Europe, and especially the southern European countries, are trying to be a bridge between Israel and the Arab world. And so the fact that the United States take a stand on one side in such a way could be affecting sure badly this.
How was it a decision? How was that decision a stand against the Palestinian state?
It's a stand because, of course, the fear is that this means Palestine does not exist. They want to erase the Palestinian state, the Palestinian nation, and make it only Israel on this land. That is the main concern. And of course, it's a reality that Jerusalem is now is Israel, okay, but it is a reality which is not legally recognized. That's the difference. But a city can be the capital of two states, and the example is just coming from Rome. Rome has been contested by two states, by Italy and by the Vatican. Before the Pope occupied all Rome, then the Kingdom of Italy occupied militarily, sent the soldiers to occupy Rome, and made the capital of the Kingdom of Italy, this in the 19th century. For almost 60 years, the Pope did not recognize Rome as a capital, did not recognize this occupation, and finally they found an agreement. Now you have two states. Most of the
so the Vatican City is a state on its own.
Is a state
with its own police, with its own soul, with its own men.
Totally independent.
Totally
state,
independent.
Even outside the United Nations. He's not even part of the United Nations. He's not part of the EU. And so, but Italy accepted this agreement.
But does Italy exercise control over Rome, over the Vatican City?
Yes, this in 1870, Italy occupied Rome with a military force, okay, and the Pope did not accept, even asked the Catholics not to take part in the politics for decades, because did not recognize this, considered as an abuse to the church. But finally, we found an agreement.
And the final, thank you so much, Paolo. So are we probably going to head towards that decision in Israel and Palestine market?
It will be possible to have two states.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Paolo. Thank you for your contribution on the program. All right, let's. No, I can't take any more. I've run out of time. Sorry, John. Okay, John, quickly in 1 minute. John, let me take you. John, 1 minute.
Hello?
Yes, go on.
Yes, you could see this is a typical example. I'm happy, Mr. Tunde, that you said that Vatican City, a country is a city on its own that shares Rome with Italy. This is the way that I believe some should settle the rancor between Palestinian and Israel.
All right, thank you, John. I have run out of time. I need to go now. Thank you so much, John, for your contribution on the program. Thank you so much. I need to conclude the program here. I'm bringing my guests who are supposed to have come in since 11:30, but because we've had a very interesting Palestinian-Israeli discussion. Paolo, thank you so much for giving us the European perspective. We go on a break now, and I bring in my last guest on the show, Mr. Kola Adedoko. We're talking about the implication of diaspora movement on our cultural identity. Just the last segment of this program. Don't go away. We'll be back.
live up to good standards that will enhance the image of Nigeria all over the world. And above all, whatever you can do to promote commerce and progress in Nigeria, even when you're in foreign countries, try and do them. Thank you very much.
Much for joining us on the last leg of this program this Monday morning. We'll be talking about cultural identity in the diaspora. We cannot talk about this topic exhaustively on the program today. We will continue this discussion tomorrow, 7 p.m. here on this channel. How diasporal movement, diasporal living has impacted on our cultural identity. Almost everybody in London, in the UK, probably apart from the main Scottish, British, anyone from the diaspora, we've come from somewhere and we've got some cultural identity. How has our diaspora living affected and impacted on our cultural identity? We're just going to have some kind of introduction on the program this morning, and tomorrow, Tuesday, 7 p.m., you'll meet me on this program. Tomorrow, on Tuesday, 7 p.m., we come back on this program, 7 p.m. Tuesday, and we'll take a look at how diaspora living has impacted on our cultural life. Put that in my place. Tomorrow, Tuesday, 7 p.m., we'll be talking about how our living in Europe, in America, in the diaspora has affected our cultural identity. But let me quickly introduce my guest, Scholar Adedokun. He's an author and he is a supporter of cultural identity. Mr. Adedo, thank you for joining us on the program today. Can we launch the start before we do a real proper discussion on Tuesday? What is culture and how does that impact on, or how does diaspora living impact on our cultural identity? Or, I don't know, let me put this this way. Do we as humans have cultural identity? What makes our cultural identity?
Thank you very much. Cultural identity is the norms, the beliefs of people, social group, ethnic, religious groups, that what they believe and they acted upon, their pattern of ways put together, the standard of living put together from the origin. The culture of every group can be seen in the way they dress, the way they talk, their language, their norms, the standard, the best way that they think people should live. And this is the identity that makes them known in any group, in any wherever they are in the world. When you see people, the way they dress, you will know where they come from, you know how they talk, their language is so important. But living in diaspora, there's nothing wrong in the movement of people from their source, from their origin, to various places in the world, to the east, west, north, and south. But like people used to say, whether you live in the north or south, east or west, home is the best. That is the origin where everybody comes from must be remembered at all times. There is no river without a source, and that source must not be forgotten. That means our identity, where we come from, our origin, our ethnicity must be remembered. And the ethics, what we know from that origin, the standard of ways by which we're supposed to live must not be forgotten. It must be remembered. And precisely, the culture is educated, is learned by education or by training, and it has to be handed over, passed on to incoming generation. But because it is not being properly passed on, we are dropping the values, we are dropping the respect, we are dropping the proper way of dressing. For example, I am from Nigeria. In Nigeria, we have the culture of respect for elders. That one, we have been dropping it when we get to diaspora because of the imported culture, which people now see and they now want to embrace. And people want to dissociate themselves from the origin because they don't want to be corrected. When people don't want to be corrected, they don't want to be corrected, then they take up to the culture, a foreign culture, and it's going to impact negatively on their own original culture. For example, the issue of respect is not only from Nigeria, it's in the dictionary of the English people. Respect is very important. Respect for elderly people. Care for the elderly. For example, care for the elderly, we have 5 stages of life. We have birth, we have infancy, we have growth, we have maturity, and we have decline. Immediately a man gets to the decline stage, the children are supposed to take over and take care of the elderly. But that is not the practice in a foreign land. They take the elderly to elderly home, government is in charge. Children are no more to be found, cousins are no more to be found because they have left their heritage, the culture, where they have come from. The practice over there, they have neglected it. Neglect of the culture will make us to live a life, to live a life that does not worth it.
Okay. Let me put you on hold. We're going to talk about this very exhaustively. Why do I keep saying that? On Tuesday, practically. But let me take Dayo. Dayo, good morning, Dayo.
Thank you very much. Tomorrow I will be at home, and I love this topic. I'm very proud of you for bringing this issue about cultural identity in diaspora. But let me say quickly to Mr. Kola, he has said something about culture, about dressing. I want him to be in our native dress tomorrow.
No, I determine. I on the program determine how he dresses.
I know you
on the program. He has said because
that you are talking about culture.
He doesn't have to call me Yoruba attire. No, because I am not.
I apologize. I know it is your show, but to put flavor into it for us to have the confidence.
I want him to appease. I want him to appeal to the diverse viewers.
Let me just leave this one.
Okay, I'll think about your proposition. I'll think about your proposition.
It's like a snail and a shell. Any snail outside the shell is dead. That is the way I want people to see our culture and cultural identity in the diaspora.
Okay, all right, Dayo, thank you.
To be on the show tomorrow.
All right,
I'll be at home, and we need to judge all, and we don't need to worry.
Okay, all right.
We're going to move it forward, and we're going to do it completely.
All right, Dayo, thank you so much. I'll think about your proposition about how Mr. Adedoku should dress, but I think I just wanted to dress as simple as possible so that I can appeal to a wider audience. But if him coming in a traditional attire will dictate what he talks about, I'll think about that before tomorrow. All right, but basically, the culture of a man, does it determine his life? The cultural identity of a man, does it determine his life, how he lives? Should it determine how a man lives?
Yes, it determines how a man lives because it is a frame of mind. The culture is as the mind is developed, the training that has been given to man from the beginning of his life, that's going to determine his future. And if he goes along with the training, it's going to determine his future. For example, the type of how you dress, how you respect, how you do things, what you eat, and the rest of it will determine what your future. So, and if you deviate, it's going to affect you negatively. Most especially if there are some values in culture that has to be embraced forever, and there are some that because of modernization we drop or we modify. We can modify part of the culture. That is part of the training. That is the development and the frame of the mind that we have to put in place. When it is to be modified, when we modify it, for example, the mode of dressing in Nigeria is no part of the body must be open.
Must be open. Let me put
no
it on
part
hold.
of the body must be open, whether area 1 or area 2 or area 3. But in this part of the world, the diaspora living has changed the way people dress and the way they are known to be dressed, and they are no more being identified as somebody who has come from a particular place because of the way they dress now exposing their bodies, exposing all important areas of the body. That is very wrong. So it's supposed to determine how we live. It's supposed to determine our appearance. It's supposed to be determine if we remember our culture. It's supposed to be a guide action on all that we do. So it's supposed to at most guide and direct us.
Okay, all right. I think because of our time, this is where we're going to end this section of this program. On Tuesday, 7:30 p.m., we will continue with this. But I still have about a few more minutes to go. But before we go, I think we should look at the issue of people dressing, or even those who live in the diaspora, people back home, wherever you have come from. How does the life of the West affect the life being lived back from wherever we have come from? Does it have an impact? How has it happened? Let's quickly talk about that, and then we will look at it. Now, if those who live in the diaspora are losing their culture and identity, what about those who live back home, wherever people have actually come from? It seems the diaspora life is actually even invading the people at home. It seems the culture is dying, because in the diaspora they're losing it. Back home, the culture of the diaspora is invading the local culture, and people are buying into the local culture. How did that happen? What could be the impact?
Thank you very much. Your observation is very correct. It's very right. People are losing their identity, and the culture is fading away in the diaspora very rapidly. And back home, it is also fading away, but gradually. So the rate at which it's fading away in the diaspora is higher than the rate at which it is getting faded at home. And what caused it is this: people that the generation that are before us, they are not doing that good job to hand over the culture as appropriate. For example, here in London, there was up till 70s, close to 80s, they are doing Yoruba in GCSE in London. Now it is no more.
They were doing Yoruba in GCSE in London.
GCSE, UK GCSE is no more. How did they stop? What are the leaders ahead of us? How did they allow it to stop?
Okay, let me put you on hold. I've got a call. Good morning.
Yeah, my name is Sule. Mr. Tude, I don't think you will believe what this man said. He is right. There was a period of time in this country. They are doing Yoruba language, GCSE. Even in the hospital information leaflet, they've asked them to put Yoruba language in there. It was made by those people that represented us, saying that they don't need it. Our people know how to speak English language.
Okay,
go and check history. But let me tell you about the question you just asked, about the way it impacted.
Because of my time, I won't be able to take that because of my time. Thank you.
You will see the way we dress. And that is what the culture. The man was saying the fact about defending and invite.
All right, okay. You will have time to talk about this with me tomorrow, Tuesday, 7 p.m. here on this program. You can join me. I'm afraid this is where we're going to stop until we come back to have a proper look at this topic tomorrow, Tuesday, 7 p.m. on this program. You should tell your friends and neighbors to join us on this program Tuesday, 7 p.m. We will be taking a look at cultural identity and how diaspora living has affected and is affecting cultural identity. Join me 7 p.m. Tuesday here on this program. My name is Tunde Alabi. Thank you for being part of the program. Mr. Kola Adedoku, thank you for joining us. I'll see you tomorrow 7 p.m. by God's grace. All right, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.